It's good. I was just telling Clay it's a ton, but it's going well. And Butte County requires you to take a protocol test before they give you their local license. And so, like, to practice, actually, this is true as a EMT also, but for like medics to practice in California, you need your state license and then you need the local license to wherever you're actually practicing, and that's
Mm.
normally done by county. Or so, like Butte County, they require you to take a protocol test. So like you have to pass that for them to even issue their local license, which is fine. But I was telling Clayton, like, I can't just like show up, day one at work and just like, oh, I'm good. Like they make you. It's really interesting too, because like in medical school, you get tested on this stuff the entire time, and then you just keep getting tested after. But I think it's a good thing. Like if they didn't do that, people would definitely, not study after a while, and then you obviously forget stuff. So I think it's a good thing that people are tested.
Nice.
And I think it should be that way forever. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So that said, it sounds like sounds like it's a lot of rote memory, just kind of drilling it in, probably, huh? From the
yeah,
little
lots
bit
of
you showed me.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, do
lots,
you
lots.
find out in the field that like legit you're ready with that knowledge, or is it really more the experiential stuff that get on the job that is more quickly referenced in the moment?
A good question. So how it works? You to obtain your license initially, one of the later stages in school, you're done with the actual school part, but then you have to go through an internship.
Mm.
And all that means is you're assigned to a fire department engine or an ambulance somewhere. And so what happens is you have a preceptor. All the preceptor does, they sit there and they're an experienced medic and they evaluate you on every single call. So like if you were to call 911 right now, people could show up and you wouldn't even know. There could be an intern there
Mm.
running the call and treating you and assessing you and doing all that, and they're getting graded. So you have to pass that portion with
Mm.
100% score by the end, or else they fail you, and then like school is a waste of time and you can't get your license and all that. I mean, you could always like
Woo.
reapply to school and go through the whole thing again, but they require you to like at least in California and in most states, like you have to show that you like can actually do it and
Mm-hmm.
perform, or you can't get your license. And then even after you have your license and you get hired somewhere, it doesn't matter how much experience you have. You still have to then go and pass what's called field training. So I'll have to go through that again. I've been through field training 3 or 4 times
Mm.
before, so I'll have to do that again. So that there's going to be someone grading and evaluating me. It's not as intense as like an internship, because it's more of like, of course, can you perform the job, and then you learn like how they do it in their system specifically.
Sure.
So the FTO, like, sure, they're grading you, they're definitely doing all that, but they're also like kind of just coaching you up on the intricacies of like the 911 system there. So that's like, it's way less intense than an internship. So
Okay,
that
interesting.
was that was like oh my gosh, that was stressful to say the least. But I'm excited for this. So I'll probably suck for a couple days, but I'll get it back.
I feel like
So
that's everybody, right? I feel like the people who actually do well and hit the ground running are the ones who are like, yeah, I'm gonna suck for a couple days.
yeah, I mean, it's like I haven't run a call in so long. How can I just be like good, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a little bit, but it's all
Yeah.
good.
Well, at
Get
least
back
you
on the
don't.
bike and start riding in no time.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
Well, at
So
least this
hopefully there
time.
won't be.
Sorry, I don't.
Oh no, I was just saying. Hopefully it's not too crazy of calls the first day, but then I'm like, oh whatever.
Yeah.
Just, you got to do it anyway. So
I gotta
screw it.
imagine, like everything else, there's a little bit of a fake it till you make it at the beginning. That you're probably, I would guess, you're experiencing a little less this time. Maybe, is that, are you experiencing? Do you find that you're coming in with the confidence of someone now who really has some time under their belt, or is it really kind of still somewhere in between? Like, because I feel like if you seem very calm to me for somebody who's studying the way that you're studying. And it would just make sense in my brain that that would be partly because you're just accustomed to this at this point.
Yeah, I'm accustomed to it. It's like a few different things. I'm accustomed to that. and knowing like when I go in there and they after they know my background, how embarrassing it would be to not perform well when I probably will have more experience than the person that's my field trainer, most
Wow.
likely.
Right.
That's not guaranteed,
Interesting.
but so it's like I can't go in there and just look like I have no idea what I'm doing. And then for me, I need a lot of reps with stuff
Mm,
to feel confident, like a lot. And this is even just studying protocols. So for me, the more I study, it's more confidence.
mm,
Because when you're in the middle of a call or whatever, and it's like, oh crap, like I don't want to be in a situation where it's like, oh, I don't remember my drug dosage or the calculation or what to do here, or something like that because I don't remember protocol. So for me, it's like it's a confidence thing,
mm.
just rep after rep after rep. Some people, I mean, everyone has to study a lot at some point, but for me, it's like a little bit more. Just unfortunately, Clay, I told you about this before. Like I don't know what it is when I'm learning something new. It takes me a second, especially if someone's teaching me. Like I just have to get reps. I have to read it a bunch of times. Like for someone to teach me something and me understand it the first time, they have to be a really good teacher. So that's not like a fault to people teaching me. It's more of just like that's just how I learn,
Mm.
which is great because I end up doing well because I study so much. But it's like I feel like I'm wasting time. It's like
Mm.
study for something for 8 hours when like probably someone else could have studied for 3. That
Hmm.
I just that's just how I've always been, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, as someone who is the kind of person who studies for much less time, there's a real advantage to that repetition that you don't get when you're on the other end of the spectrum. And part of the reason why I don't feel like I would necessarily be the best candidate for
Recording in
that,
progress.
kind of work in particular, just because, as we've talked about, I think there's a lot of wonderful things about myself. That kind of reliability is not really exactly my forte. Like one of the things that makes me a good trainer is that I'm so flexible and willing to meet people where they're at. Well, part of that is because I have a large flux of where I kind of stand in the day to day,
Mm,
which I feel like is not
yeah.
an advantage when you're like, you've got a job to do and this needs to get done. And that's just
Yeah.
that, like,
Yeah. I am curious though, like if you would like it. I know that seems
mm,
silly after what you just said, but I'm still curious if you would like it because it's a very like service oriented job.
mm-hmm.
So part of me thinks you would like it, at least that aspect. I feel like you would.
I agree with you. I think I actually really would, and I kind of think this goes back to when we were talking about if we were to have served. Like the more we've talked
Mhm.
about it, the more
Yeah.
and the more partly it's just you talking, and being around you talking about getting back into being a medic and everything. But I really, you know, that would probably be the track that I could see
Mm,
myself taking for the reasons why you're saying that you think I'd like to do this work to begin
yeah.
with is, yeah, I mean, for me is there's not much better opportunity than like kind of being in the moment and taking the time that's happening right now to try to make something better than it was, right? Which is
Yeah.
really what you're doing in its essence, right?
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely. And I've noticed too, like being away from it, it's like, man, I just hate other jobs. Like there's only a few things
well, nothing
I
else matters after that, right? Like what else like you'd have to go into like another service position for it to matter compared to that, right?
yeah, it's funny because it's not like I think these jobs aren't important or whatever. Obviously, like just about every job is important in some way if you look at it. But to me, it's just like I can't explain. It's like I feel like I crawl up into this small ball and I'm like trapped in a dark room by myself and there's someone sitting there laughing at me. I don't know what it is, but when I'm in a job I don't like, it's like that's how I feel. I'm
Yeah.
like I'm literally wasting my short life here on earth to sit here and do that's how I felt at the last job. Like it
Yeah.
was, dude, it was terrible. I'm like, this is such a waste of time. And yeah, so I don't know, I was probably just being a baby, but that's how I feel. It's like I need at least to do something that feels like there's a little bit more purpose behind it, at least for me. You know what I mean?
I feel like there's a really like crucial performance aspect there too. And I'm looking at all three of us when I start thinking about this, because it's like, I don't think it's so much a coincidence that three of us are on here to perform. I mean, we're just sitting and chatting, but it's still a performance, right? As
Yeah.
is when you're on the job, because that's a performance on a whole other level. As is the music that Andrew and I both have pursued at
Oh,
the
heck
professional
yeah.
level, and as is this podcast. Yeah, the nice thing about this is that we have like the little core of it that I feel like is really kind of altruistic and pure, which is just our collective desire to share good information with people. But
Yeah.
we're performing that, certainly.
Yeah.
We're all a bunch
Yeah.
of
Even though I could never do what you guys did, like with music and performing, like I don't even joke for a second like I would ever be able to do that. But the idea of like being in that situation where it's like stressful, I'm sure there's a lot of people and you have to perform. It's like lights, camera, action, whatever you want to call it, or game day. Like that part seems really cool to me. I wouldn't be able to do it like anything music related, but the thought of that, how I picture it in my head, I'm like that would be really hard, and it'd probably be fun in a way, challenging for sure.
I think there's a lot more parallels from what I've read, because I only I only know the music performance. I don't know anything about being a first responder. But while I was studying psychology, you see that there are people, especially like focusing on like people who may or may not be diagnosed, but may have ADHD. As adults, like a lot of those people end up
Yeah.
in careers where they're like, it's like this moment, the rubber is hitting the road. All that matters is this moment. And that's the thing that the music performance and the first response comes where they have in common is nothing matters but this moment and your choice in
Yeah.
this moment.
That's very
And then
true.
Ooh,
that
I like
moment
how you put
changes.
that.
And the
Yeah.
moment changes for the better or worse. And if it's going
Yeah.
worse, you better you better make the next right decision, right? And luckily for us, that might just mean like a boom, you know what I mean, while we're playing. But for you, that could be somebody's heart stopping, right? I mean, so that's where, so it's interesting, certainly. It's I'm glad that people won't die if I play shitty.
But it's like more nerve wracking than like my situation is like if you were to perform, you're at a venue or concert, whatever it is, and you just blank on,
Oh, yeah.
whatever you're playing. It's like, sure, someone might not die, but embarrassment
Yeah.
or the
Oh.
thought of that is like worse than death to a lot of people.
You know
You know
what's
what I
funny?
mean?
Dude.
Bombing. Sorry, Andrew. I don't
I mean, it's just like I did drama. I'll never forget. I did drama in high school at Foothill, and there was multiple times. So like throughout the year, you do like sword fighting lessons. We had musicals. We did scripts from TV shows, sitcoms, and stuff like that. And I think there was 3 different performances I did where I actually drew a blank, and forgot my lines on stage. One of
little
them
sweat.
was a monologue.
Oh no.
And the worst part about it was, so we weren't supposed to have repeat monologues in the class, but somehow our teacher approved the same monologue for 2 people, one of them being me. And so somebody already gave my monologue performance and did a great job, killed it.
Oh,
Absolute A+
no.
performance. And then I did my monologue,
No.
and I think I got like 2 paragraphs in and totally just forgot my lines. I started just sweating profusely. Like my heart was palpitating. I was so like,
Wait, was this in front of the school?
this was just in front of my drama class, fortunately enough, but still
That could
I
have been.
had 30 something people looking at me in a tight,
Right,
classroom. And it was just, dude, I think about that moment all the time, and that embarrassment, and just the being on stage in front, everybody's expecting you to say something else. And just for the life of me, the more I thought about people and what they were thinking out there, the less I could remember any bit of my next line. So I called scene after 2 paragraphs and just cut the whole thing short.
See.
Yeah.
Scene.
I did
Can
the
do
whole,
that
I
in
was
real
like,
life?
scene. I did the fucking scene.
Do you guys have any music stories about playing in front of people or performing somewhere where like it just was chaos or you blanked, or like either of you? Do you guys have any of those, whether it's individually or together?
I only played really a couple times. Clayton would definitely have more stories about this, I would think.
Kind of music that we played was kind of controlled chaos to begin with. So I feel like it was there's a certain freedom to that kind of performance that we as a band, Andrew, Matt, and myself leaned into hard. It was this kind of freeing, we don't care if we sound good attitude, which
That kind of makes it
sounded
better,
good.
doesn't it?
Exactly. So it's there was kind of, and especially it's hard to say because it was kind of built into our style, because our style was necessarily messy. Because if you guys remember, Matt is a genius guitarist, a genius lead guitarist, but he has a very sloppy sounding style. It's not until it's like he goes between like fucking just like laser beaming you with intricacy and like tightness to like almost feeling drunk in a good way. So the nature of our music was already like, we're pieces of shit. You like our pieces of shit, like, to stuff our shit into your ears. And so you had to have that appeal, right? So that kind of helped. That said, for me personally, outside of Likewise, which was our band and our band growing up, I went into different studio environments with other more more polished, more professional musicians, honestly, is what it was. Because we were kids coming in off the street, and then I walked into a multi-million-dollar studio acting like I was hot shit, and I was not hot shit. But so there was a learning process, and once I was certainly, and Andrew, you worked with these people we had a project that we were working on that together, so firsthand the level that when I hit that level, all of a sudden I had to like that was when my anxiety really manifested fully in my performances, and I had to learn how to re-sing for a lot of, and I'm not re-sing. I had to learn how to face my intense fear of not being good enough. And
Ooh, that's a rough one.
Yeah. And so what you're talking about, that kind of paralyzing fear when you're on stage, stage fright is what it is. It's really that core of, oh shit, I'm not good enough to be X, Y, or Z, whatever. It's just those old things. And once you get into that, all of a sudden now we're in familiar territory, right? Because now we're talking about stuff Andrew and I studied in school with our psychology degree, and stuff that I practice in the day-to-day with clients, because the reality is that somebody coming in off the street who has never lifted before is potentially terrified, and they don't really have a way of showing that, because it's not really, that's not what you do when you go in to go work out. You don't come in and you're like, oh God, I'm hella scared. If you're super self-aware and you're like working on yourself and you're like with it, like maybe you realize that. But for most people, it's a really scary situation that you're going into blind, and you kind of got to trust somebody. So, learning how to get comfortable with what is uncomfortable, I think applies wholly to performance and into fitness and kind of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast.
Yeah, but what a great place to be. I love when you said, I'm trying to remember the exact words you said. You get to a place where like you're not worried about how you sound, or like about, what did you say exactly? Do you know what I'm
not
talking
good
about?
enough in that.
Like you don't care if like you're not worried if you sound like crap. Do you remember the line that you said there, Clay? What did you say exactly?
So we are afraid of fear, right? So we're afraid of something that is unknown. Once we break through that experience and we experience that, it's not unknown anymore. Like I know what it, like if I go out and play shitty, I'm afraid of going out and playing hella shitty, right? Or if I go out, perfect example, Andrew brought up, like just completely like losing your place. If I go out and completely lose my place, that sucks. But I'll tell you what, I now have that experience of like, okay, that sucked. Now I'm going to go do it again. Right. So it's, I don't know. I don't know if that came around, was kind of the point of what you're asking or not, but you know, it comes back around. It just comes back around to this idea of,
Well, with the oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, Phileas, I need you jump in.
Like
please.
with likewise too, though. Like I think what Jake might be talking about is like we had a degree of not being perfect and like had a degree of sloppiness, I guess, within the music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And because we already knew that as well, you can kind of it was pretty much a band personality at that point, and then you can kind of flaunt it that way.
Yeah.
And kind of own up to it and just kind of it works to a degree, you know?
Yeah. Well, it was authentic.
Sorry, go ahead, Clay.
I'm sorry. It was authentic. And that was kind of the key is we really were just up there, 3 guys who grew up together playing music that we wanted to hear and play. And people would dig that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's such a cool place to be, though, once you're just like, okay, we're here. And when you stop worrying so much about how other people might perceive you and how you might look if you fail or if you don't do well, once you can get past that feeling or that, you know, threshold, it's such a great place to be. And it reminded me when you're saying that, like, you know, for me, like going through different internships or field training, it's hard to break away that there's someone grading you this whole time. And for you guys, you're basically being graded by whoever the heck you're performing to. So it's very similar. But when you can break away from like, okay, I don't need to worry about this person. I just need to do my thing. You know what I mean? It becomes much easier. For you guys, I know it could be a little different because like, obviously you somewhat care about all these people that are watching you and grading you, think at least a little bit. But if you can break away from, okay, how are people perceiving me right now and not obsessing over it, at least I feel like that's such a just good place to be. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Comes back to what we always say here is what are we doing and why? And if the answer to that is because I want to be doing it, people are going to be on board, which I think is a really good hook to our show here, because the reality is even if we weren't, you know, putting this on Spotify, even if we weren't, you know, doing this proper podcast, like I would still get on just to chat with you guys about this stuff. It'd be a blast. You know?
I know. Right? I know. That's it really makes you think, like, I don't want to say money is some bad thing or that's not what I'm going to mean by the statement, but like if you can think about the things that you would do, what you would do in life, even if money wasn't a part of it, that's a tall tale way to see if that's something that you really care about. Maybe you can call it your purpose, your mission, whatever that is. Because for me, I feel like there's only a few things that I care about enough to where I would want to do it, like even if you didn't make money. But I know it sounds stupid because obviously careers, you got to make money. So it's not saying that, but I just mean like, what would I still want to do regardless of money? You know what I mean? Like, what would I want to put out there? And there would really only be a few things. So
like that famous line that says like, work's not work if you love what you do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true, at least to the point. It's like, even if it is technically work, it's way different than being somewhere you don't want to be or doing something that you don't want to do or you don't feel like you're supposed to be doing or whatever it is. So I totally agree. AJ, what else is new with you, dude? I feel like you're an enigma sometimes because Clay, have my back here, okay? Have my back here.
Andrew,
someone is not the best at texting back.
So Clay, have my back. Did I miss something?
Dude, I sent you artwork yesterday.
So
again.
let's all be on the same page. And you both know my phone.
Oh no, here it comes.
Is permanently on Do Not Disturb.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I
will say I was defending you. I was telling Aileen about an hour ago. I'm like, AJ's so terrible with his phone. But I did defend you at the same time. Like, he was running, his phone fell out. It broke. It's stuck on
like
the
whole story for me.
Yeah, so I defended you, but at the same time remind her how bad you are with your phone.
Yeah.
I don't know why we were just talking about that a little bit ago.
You guys, a new phone is coming soon, I promise. Jake, I did see your artwork. I loved it.
Thank you.
As I tell you every time, I always see your text messages.
Okay.
In that moment, I wasn't responding, and then I often just close the text message thing, and then I don't go back to messages. So I apologize. You're not the only one I do this to. It's pretty much everyone.
Will this new phone get you to text us back or me back?
Probably not.
No.
Clay, what can we do about
what are
this?
we
Is there
talking
anything
about?
we can do?
Okay, I have to qualify this and say to be 100%, 100%. I admire your inability to not get back to a text message because you live with a freedom from technology that the rest of us simply do not. Because
I will
I am a
say
slave
that's
to my
true.
phone. I have to be.
Dude.
My business is my phone, right?
Yeah.
Like and even if my business wasn't my phone, it's all my other shit too anyway, right? So it's like, good for you, dude. I literally use you as an example. Like for example, my buddy had COVID a little while ago, and I didn't, and we were talking like every day, and then I didn't hear from him for a day. Like I texted him and I didn't hear from him for like 24 hours, and it's like 24 hours later, I was like, this isn't, and this is the person that we worked in the band with, Andrew.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so you know him, and you can imagine like anyway, so we were in touch every day, and he didn't respond for like 24 hours, and I was like, I Facebooked his wife, I like texted, I like called him, I was like, because I just want him. COVID, you don't know, right? Like it can turn bad real quick. And I was even telling Dominica, I was like, if this was Andrew, I wouldn't have fucking done shit, because like he would not have responded. I wouldn't expect him to respond. But this person, like it was weird for them not to. They turned out to be fine, but it was weird for them not to get back. Whereas, like honestly, if it had been you, I just would have been like, yeah, he's fine, he's all right.
That is exact. I literally had a somewhat similar thought today with AJ. Like it was really weird for like 2 seconds. And this was stupid of me to think. I was like, is Andrew all right? I literally was like, I hope he's okay. No, just, I know it sounds dumb. And because I was like, I texted him the other day with this beautiful artwork that I made with his face in it again. And then I told him he was getting a pay raise and still nothing. And then Clay, so then when I texted both of us about, when I texted all three of us, the little group text saying, are you guys still on for this time? AJ still didn't text back. So at that moment, for about a second, I was like, is he okay? And then I'm like, are you kidding me? It's Andrew. Like, of course he didn't text you back. Like, no, he's just fine. So I had a moment earlier today thinking that you were like, something might happen for just like a split second. But
I make a lot of people upset, I think, with that.
And to be completely fair, Jake, I think you and I err on the side of like mother hen friend compared to like Andrew, who's like you can like not talk to somebody for a long time, which I actually appreciate, because we've gone when we were kids like a period of, and then we like saw each other and it was like
years at a point.
Yeah, exactly. When we saw each other, it was like no time had passed, right? So there's actually a really good thing, but at the same time, like I think Jake, you and I are a little bit more like, the perfect example is like you and I both like didn't hear from our friend, or one of our friends, for 24 hours, and we're like, this person's dead.
I know, it's like I thought that for a second. I was like, wait, but if he didn't text me back with this or this or this, okay,
I'm right there with you, man. You and me.
But I will have to say though that is pretty cool. If you don't feel connected to your phone, like you were saying, Clay, a second ago, that actually is. I thought you were being sarcastic at first, by the way, but then
sincere.
I'm like, oh, he's serious right now.
100%.
But like, I feel like I don't know. I would maybe still be on my phone a little bit too much, even if I didn't have to be on it for like work stuff or like mission driven made stuff. Like I was on here for hours a day doing mission driven made stuff some of the time, like creating stuff. But I'm like, I probably still would be on my phone more than like Andrew or something. So that actually is probably a pretty cool thing to not feel that attachment to your phone. Because I would love to say like, oh, if we weren't doing mission driven made, or if we didn't do this, I wouldn't ever be on my phone. But I'm like, no, that's probably not true. Like I feel like I'm always reading articles or studying or doing something on my phone. So like, I'm checking it all the time. So that actually is pretty cool. It's probably kind of a liberating feeling or something,
Of all my friends, you're the one, Andrew, that I can see living off the grid the most readily.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Can't you say Andrew just off the grid, like just no trace of like?
Have you guys ever seen or heard the show Life Below Zero? I think it's is it National Geographic? I think it might be. It's on Disney Plus. And it's
probably
just,
on AP.
It's they partnered. It pretty much follows like all these individuals who do live off the grid, and they all live in Alaska, Life Below Zero. So it's all in very cold weather, and it's just about how they, build their own housing and hunt, gather, and just live completely off the grid. And they absolutely need supplies. They'll go into town. They'll be like, yeah, it's just a 3-hour drive into town. Got to pick up a couple things.
They're like, no,
and then they're back.
Perfect.
They're back totally off the grid. It's a good show though. I do enjoy it.
Andrew's applying for
Yeah,
the next round of applicants on that one, everyone.
Literally, when you said that, in my mind would be like, before you even started saying that, was like Andrew, like one of the old like Real World audition videos. Like, I'm Andrew. I'd be great for Real World Alaska because I
Real World Alaska.
Anchorage.
Real World Anchorage.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
AJ, that would be you, huh?
But I mean, like, some of the funnest times I've had is backpacking with my dad and not having cell service for a couple days. And
Yeah,
I love it, dude, for
You're an
sure.
adventure guy.
that is pretty cool.
You guys are both adventure guys, but you're Andrew. You're like romantic adventure guy. Like Jake, I see you out there, like, you know, having adventures. But Andrew, Andrew. What you've been to? I want to the Himalayas. You've been to Nepal. Thank you. I wanted to say, like, I don't even know what. Oh, you went to Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing any other big? You went to South America too, didn't you? Because there's
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, right? Because I've got the sloth that you brought home.
Mm-hmm.
Is there? We're missing it. Oh, Thailand. We went to Thailand together.
We went to Thailand, and then so when Summer and I did our European tour, I guess we hit Germany. We went to Amsterdam. We went to Prague.
Nice.
We did Paris and London as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a fun trip. 3 weeks we were out there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
adventure.
Clay, so I never like did that. Like I haven't traveled all over the place. I liked adventures as far as like AJ when we were teenagers. Okay, let's drive down to San Luis Obispo right now. Let's just go. Like being,
did.
you know, kind of stuff like that, or like let's go to Berkeley, or let's go to the top of Fish Ranch Road, or where's the other one, Twin Peaks, or
So, yeah.
that type of stuff. Like I was always into those type of adventures, or like when we would go to I'm trying to remember the name of that little lake in the East Bay we went to, and we
Del
like,
Val?
Del Val, yeah, and just
Yeah.
those type of adventures. But as far as like traveling all over the place, I don't know. I've never had like a huge need or want. Not that I would be opposed to it, but to me, I don't feel like I need to like go see like Europe or something, even though it'd probably be pretty cool. I don't feel the need. I would literally rather, you know, if Edleen and I didn't have kids and we wanted to travel, there would be places in the U.S. that I would personally want to see first. So I wouldn't say I have the travel bug
Yeah.
necessarily. I get it, but yeah,
It's like,
not really my thing.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what I've taken out of a lot of these, I guess the couple travels to Nepal, Costa Rica specifically, was like seeing these people live without, you know, a lot of this modern technology that we live with every single day, and seeing how much happier they are than like everyone else that I've met, especially in this area. Like these people not only live longer than we do, but they just have this whole, I just want to find a better term for it, but they're happy, you know. It's amazing.
Peace.
It's amazing to see they're at peace. You know, they work every day to pretty much support themselves. You know, they're growing food and fixing up their house and, you know, trading with neighbors and stuff like that. And there's a huge communal aspect to it. And just seeing, you know, everybody with a smile on their face and how welcoming they are of visitors and stuff like that too. And then getting to talk to them a little bit has been some of the coolest experiences ever.
I mean, I will say, obviously, I have no idea what that's like, but just being outside a lot, just that alone, like to me, makes me feel calmer and more at peace. Literally, just like being outside. I don't even necessarily have to be, you know, in the middle of nowhere, but just like kind of hiking around or literally walking around outside for a while. That makes me
take the nature
like
in a little bit and see the animals and just you know, especially in the springtime, you know, it's beautiful outside and there's a nice little gust of wind and the trees are all blowing in your face and get a little lizard running across your feet, you know, just the little things, you know, like there's nothing to worry about at that moment. You're just like, you're here in the moment, just, you know, enjoying life for a second.
A lizard running across your feet. I like that.
Love it.
So, okay, Clay, have my back here since Andrew's not going to go to PT school. We already decided that, so you have to have my back and help bully him into going into fire or EMS or both.
Okay.
So Clay, tell me this doesn't sound great, right? So he wants to travel. That's a big, important thing to him, as he's saying right now. And if he went to fire and or EMS or both or whatever, he would be able to travel on a regular basis. There's not many occupations that allow that, you know, unless like you work somewhere that gives you unlimited PTO, which is normally fake, by the way. I'm
Mhm.
sure, Clay, I think we talked about that once, or maybe not. But all the companies that give you unlimited PTO, it's not really a real thing. We can get into that in a
We've talked
moment
about
if
it.
you'd like.
I think we
But
talked
Clay,
about it off pod.
oh, we did. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we did. Have my back here. Tell Andrew, literally, that matches up perfect.
I can because I'll tell you what. If I'm being 100% honest, I think that there's a lot that he can do with the. I think you. Sorry, talking like you're not here, Andrew. I think there's a lot. The position that you and I find ourselves in currently, where we have our undergrad degrees, puts us in a position to study something that we really want to not only learn about, but also is the most direct way to raising your income. Unfortunately, because it also comes with student loans, and so how do you balance out future income with debt? And so it becomes a much more complex question, which obviously is not something we're trying to get all into today. As much as, if I'm being honest, whether it's PT or not, not that I think that you should go PT route. I was just saying that because I want you to. I think that it's an opportunity to be able to get an advanced degree in your early 30s, because that means that you can start an advanced degree career before you're 40, which you won't that. I mean, it'll be fine if we decide to do that in 10 years, because then you're just gonna be 40, mid 40s instead of mid 30s. And, going the EMT route, you could do that and then still always decide later to go back to school. Right now, obviously I'm biased, but I'm digging the idea of putting my head down for a few years and then popping up with, the ability to speak to things at a deeper level, which you only get by studying something at a deeper level, as Jake, you're doing right now with your work.
Yep. Good point.
So Clayton has my back that's all he said right there. That's the only thing I heard. Clayton just said.
That was like the most political answer.
Just those words.
I should be a freaking politician, man.
You would do great. You would do great,
honestly,
in Washington,
dude. Honestly, I've from a young age, because I did mock government growing up. From a young age, I really very much wanted to consider. Like, I liked the idea of being a politician. It was once I grew up and learned what the actual game is, that I was just like, oh, I'm not even interested, because it's just ultimately what it is a bunch of people yelling at each other. Okay, let me rephrase. It's people making really important decisions, but the way the game is played is really bullshit. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like reality TV. Everything's reality TV now, and that's not the game I want to play. I think that's clear by my being here with MDM, because this is like the opposite of reality TV, and it's ironically probably more true to the title of reality, because it was just us talking about real shit, right?
That's right.
So
that's right. I did hear Joe Biden was hiring he needs someone else to hold his teleprompter. So I mean, if you still want to go to DC, Clay, you can always do that.
I'll tell you, I'm.
Is that true?
We know. I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I'll tell you what. I am not. And we're not trying to get all political. As a self-proclaimed lifelong Democrat, I am not a Joe Biden fan. So I like him better than I like Trump. That's just me, though. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, not to get into that whole thing as much as to say I'm good off of the Joe Biden prompter. Like, I think I would probably write some bullshit in there and like try to fuck him up. You know what I mean? Just for shits and gigs. F you, San Diego, Ron Burgundy action.
Well, AJ, can you say it over the air where you're at with all that stuff, or is this a off-air topic at this point?
This is I mean, where I'm at is I still don't know. There's not really much to talk about at this moment.
Okay.
There's a couple things happening with my current position that I might see through or get a better idea of what it is before I like make a decision to stop working there. I'm just trying to get my thoughts straight, and ultimately I just want to make the right decision, so I'm going to take my time with it.
Okay. Even with the pay raise too. Okay.
It's 7% pay raise. Not bad. Not bad.
At least.
Oh, I thought you were talking about an MDM pay raise. I'm like, okay, what do you get? 5 macaronis?
Oh no, I'm trying to get Andrew to come work with me.
I think he'd mentioned, was it the Bay Area? You said they're just they're honoring a 7% at least increase for all EMTs, right?
Oh, no, not in the.
Or was
Bay.
it Butte County?
Yeah,
Butte County.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so they're like negotiating stuff like that. So
Gotcha.
I was just trying to throw more ammo at Andrew to convince him.
Oh yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. Man, I can't believe we're going to be like up there in a couple weeks. This is so
I
nuts.
see the boxes behind you, man. So how's that going?
Yeah.
We actually don't have that much stuff packed up. We probably have like 10 boxes. That's still, I think you guys saw those last time. Those boxes are actually full of other boxes. The like packed boxes are I think there's a few in here, but most of them are like out in our kitchen. But yeah, I'm just ready to move. I never thought I would say that, like going back to California, but man, like aside from my thoughts about policies in California and the price and stuff, like if we take that away, right, and just think of California, man, it's such a cool place. Like if you don't, if you don't talk about all the other stuff, just like where it is and what you can do there, and I don't know. So that part of California,
You just can't argue against it. It's beautiful. You got the ocean, you got the mountains, you got the valleys, you got the redwoods. It's just it encompasses what a lot of people are looking for all in one spot.
And it's all like pretty close too. It's not like to get to one or the other you have to drive for 10 hours. Like you could literally, you could be in the snow and on, to the beach within a few hours essentially.
I have snowboarded all day and seen the ocean that night.
Do you still snowboard?
Yeah. I actually got a whole new setup 2 years ago. New boots, bindings, and a snowboard.
What type of board do you have?
It is a Rome.
Oh my
Rome
gosh.
Board. Yeah.
Look at you, fancy mofo.
I did some research on it. It's not park specific or free ride specific. It's a little bit in between.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and I got some Burton Customs for bindings, and then
do you have a little toe cap on it?
Yep.
Dang. Look at you.
Dang.
Snowboarding and just traveling all over the world and living in Alaska with all those people.
So you guys know Summer and I are going to Dominican Republic in 2.5 weeks.
Oh shit, no.
I knew you were going. I didn't know
awesome.
It was 2.5 weeks though.
So it's been coming up real quick.
Clayton hasn't approved your PTO yet though.
Does that mean I get your macaronis?
I put in my request.
So he's laughing. He's not gonna approve it. So you're gonna tell Summer, sorry.
She actually might be listening. So sorry, honey.
Yeah. The CFO said no.
The CFO
to the PTO.
Wait, no. Andrew is the CFO. You don't give me the money.
Oh, good point.
Yeah,
Okay.
Don't give Clayton the money. Give me like a lot of like. There's so many things. I'll be like, yes, take it. I'll take it. Don't give me the money.
Okay, your CTO. Your CTO said no.
Yeah,
or your COO
I like
no.
the CTO. I'll tell you what, if you made me CFO, you guys would come into the studio the next day and we'd have like top of the line everything.
Perfect.
Yeah, but at the expense of our bottom line.
My heart was just like, where's the money, dude? $30,000 in debt all of a sudden.
Clayton approved it, so it's fine.
But it looks good, right?
Well, no, and it sounds good.
And it sounds good. There you go.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that's how you know that Andrew is the true CFO, because like even in this hypothetical situation, it's like hurting his heart that the hypothetical money is gone.
I mean, you're all excited. Like, yeah, whatever.
Okay. True, real talk though, we do got to get like a nice, like a decent cage, dude. I always call them cages. You call them, the structure with the squat structure. I always call them cages.
Oh, rig?
Rig, yeah. Thank you. Always rig. That probably is more of the. So, but I'm like these days I'm like missing that, because that's the one piece that I don't get, because I don't have a gym membership, and we don't have at my studio. We have everything but that. Like we do have a barbell, but we don't have enough weights to really make it worth doing the whole thing. Because our weights are generally, we don't really, I lift heavier than anybody who trains at that studio. You know what I mean? Most people, we have a set of power blocks if somebody wants to go heavy, but
you love those things though.
Oh dude,
that's your favorite thing on earth.
Just this morning I took this and used it with 2 different clients. And all I had to do was I take the 30s, which means that I carry to my car back and forth every single day 60 pounds. It's terrible because these are my power blocks. So this is what I used to lift. Eventually I'm going to get myself a travel set. But yeah, so I get a farmer's walk up and down 2 flights of stairs every single day, or every single time I take
Nice.
it
There you
out.
go.
There you go. Well, let's get into our fitness focus section today. And I thought this would be a good topic because every one of us would maybe have a slightly different perception of this. That's why I thought it would be good. Like Clayton, for you, it'd be the perception of like, you train yourself, obviously, and then you have clients. Andrew, you've been into fitness for a long time. So I just thought this would be kind of fun to talk about this and to hear your guys' point of view about this topic. So let's get into it. So for today, we're going to talk about indications of an effective workout routine. Clayton, I see you smiling. I know you like this topic.
So I'm so
Admit it.
sorry. I'm about to throw a wrench in the gum up the works because Summer put it in a chat that's so good that I have to break up the podcast to say. She said, "Slice Summer, this is Andrew's partner, who he's going to the Dominican Republic with. Says, I'm going with or without him. Peace sign." I can't see what the other emoji is, but
Wait, that's in the chat?
that's in the chat. Yeah, Summer's hanging out.
Wait, why
Oh,
can I
thank you,
not
Summer.
see the?
Oh, it's no,
Maybe
no, no.
under
This is
Twitch
the
chat, probably.
Twitch chat. Yeah, she's on Twitch.
Oh,
She's watching us live on
gotcha.
Twitch. Yeah.
Tell Summer we apologize, but the CTO said no, and Andrew hasn't acquired enough PTO, and even if he had that, he would say no anyway.
Yeah, right, dude. Andrew, are you kidding me? I can't say no to Andrew. Like Andrew could ask for anything, and I would have to say yes to him because.
But you
all the
realize
things
if you do that, Andrew's never going to come back. He will literally go to Alaska and laugh at us while he's there with no phone, and we can't text him. He would love that. Well, me and Clayton are like, I wonder if he's been eaten by a bear, and he's just sitting there laughing in a tree.
we're full on
Let's
like
be
have
real,
a
guys.
funeral,
Like, come on.
grieve,
Just
like
in a tree.
You'd be so happy.
Just
Oh my
forcing for
God.
berries or something.
Yeah,
Oh my
as
God.
Clayton and I
Okay.
are just
Whoa.
sitting here, you'd love that.
It just got a little close to Into the Wild.
Dude.
Okay, let's pump the brakes on the berry eating, Andrew. Like the first thing you do in the wilderness
Yeah,
is
true,
not
true,
go
true.
for the berries. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But I
know what you're picking first.
guess Summer's going without you on your trip, so sorry.
Oh yeah, she's been looking forward to it. She's out.
All right. Well, anyways, indications of an effective workout routine. All right. So it's a great question, I think, and this specifically should be an ongoing conversation you have with yourself, or if you have a coach or a trainer or anything like that, it'd be a conversation that ongoing you would have with them. And although there's no perfect workout routine, and there's probably always going to be some type of flaw in the routine, or maybe something that's not optimal, that's completely normal, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be constantly evaluating or thinking of ways how we can improve this. So here's a very simple question to ask yourself before you dive into more specifics of your routine. Clayton, I know you're going to like this, especially the first part. I know you're going to agree with me. Maybe that's why I wrote it. I just wanted you to agree with me on this one.
Dude,
but
you
who knows?
basically wrote up a plan today that I'm going to be like at the end. I'm going to be like, "Yep."
I'm going to say something crazy then, so then you have to like chime in and say. But no, this one just from me and Clayton doing all these episodes together. I think Andrew will agree, but I'm pretty sure Clayton will. So here's the question to ask yourself in the very beginning. Is my workout routine, is it enhancing my life or sport if you're an athlete? But for most people, is my workout routine enhancing my life? I would argue that might be the most important question to ask yourself. Is this enhancing my life? Because if it's not, and you're not someone that has to train, so an athlete of any kind, so we're just the general population of people, if it's not enhancing your life, what's the point? This isn't saying you have to necessarily love exercising or love going into the gym or love training, even though a lot of us do, but there has to be some benefit to someone. Why else would you be doing it then? So I would argue, again, that's the most in question. Is this workout routine, is it enhancing my life or my sport? Now, here are some indications and questions to ask yourself if your routine is effective. guys, to be honest, I really feel like some of the points in our outline today, it's a bit of a reductionist standpoint, but I still think that's okay for today's purposes. And I think people might be surprised that we're not going to necessarily have those answers you hear all the time, like, oh, after your routine's effective if you lose this much body fat, or if you improve your mile time by this much, or whatever. We're not going to have too much of that today, but I just felt for today's purposes, it was more in line with what we wanted to talk about. So we just went over this. So I'll just state it again one more time. Is your routine enhancing or empowering your life or sport? Clay, I've heard you use that word as well a couple times about empowering your life. Would you mind, not to put you on the spot, but kind of talk, because you've talked about this before and I really liked it, like how you saw fitness as a way for you to empower yourself. I don't want to go into your story or anything personally, but can you add anything to that? Because I remember you've said that a couple times in a really, really good way. So
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to deliver on exactly that as much as I would say it comes back to the same question that we talk about time and 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 time again, which is what are we doing and why? And the core of what are we doing and why is that by asking that question, we have a clear purpose for the behavior. And so, you know, working backwards, or I guess working forwards, because backwards are the backwards. Basically, if you're not getting a benefit, what's the point? Because if we're working backwards from the benefit, anyway, it just gets messy. If you're working out for a reason, make sure that the things you're doing are to that same reason.
Right. Love it. Yep. Absolutely love it. And number two, and again, this is a very simplistic, like bullet point here, but it's important. And that is, how does your mood compare to when you first started training? So say, or actually even look at before you started exercising or training, whether that's strength training, running, whatever you're doing, how does your mood compare now versus when you started, or I'll even say right before? I think the topic of your mood and emotion and how you feel, it's very easy to overlook this aspect, in my opinion, at least. It's easy to focus just on, you know, the things we always talk about in strength training, you know, or exercise in general. And it's very easy to say, oh, how much muscle have you gained? Or how much do you bench? How many times did we hear that in high school, guys? Like, come on, you know, how much do you bench thing? That was like, it's so cliche. It's not even funny how many, you know, how often we heard that. But a very simple way to just kind of see where you're at. How is your mood now? If you found a good dose of exercise in whatever form it is, you should feel better. Your mood should be lifted. Now, as we always talk about, and Clayton especially is really good at making this point, there's a spectrum, right? So if we're working out or training so much to where we don't feel like our mood's elevated, you know, we kind of feel on the other end of that spectrum, that's when we're going to have to reevaluate where we are. So how is your mood? I would say for almost everyone, it should be improved if you are exercising versus when you didn't exercise. And that's so important. Like, who doesn't want to walk around and feel better every day and be in a better mood? You know what I mean? That's one of the great things of, you know, your fitness routine. Clay, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really salient point because, you know, one of the antidepressants are of huge prevalence right now. And that's because they are effective for treating depression and anxiety and a number of other things that I can't speak to as a personal trainer, certainly. But exercise is evidenced to perform this kind of change, or I should say this kind of basically exercise can be a more effective treatment than these chemical treatments. Granted, amazing. The most effective way to do that is a combination. Right. Enter, you know, where we have a proper conversation with a therapist and you know, a personal trainer and, you know, and a doctor. But within our contexts, you know, it's a really, really important point because a lot of us want to reduce our reliance on pharmaceuticals. And one of the chief ways we can do that is through exercise, because we have literal medicinal benefits that come from proper exercise and proper nutrition.
And there's literal studies showing that up to like moderate depression, whatever that means specifically, I don't know, but up to moderate depression, that exercise is as beneficial as taking different types of medications or antidepressants specifically. That's amazing.
I would argue that even outside the scope of potentially those studies, that there's probably even more benefit because of ancillary benefits, such as community in a gym. Not to say that that's the best example, because community in a gym can often be expulsive or can be exclusionary, which can counter to the point. But if you find a community, like all of a sudden there are benefits coming from finding that community, and answer XYZ, and it becomes much more potent.
Yeah, it's a great point. That's a fantastic point. And then moving on to number 3. So this is a little bit more along the lines of, when you talk about building muscle or strength or anything like that. And this is slow improvements in performance. Okay. So over time, remember, all this is over time. This isn't saying, oh, it's been a month and I haven't gotten stronger, or I don't look like I've gained muscle. I'm not talking about that. I'm trying to look at this from a bigger scope here, a bigger view. So just over time, okay? So are you getting stronger, even if it's slow? And then to me personally, you guys can argue this point, and I'm fine with that, but improvements in strength over time are some of the best indicators in the gym that you are doing something right. Now, even if you aren't necessarily training for like absolute strength, like maybe it's not your goal to be able to deadlift 500 pounds or squat 400 pounds or anything like that, I still believe if you're doing, we'll say, any type of resistance training in the gym, okay, strength is still a great indicator that you're doing something correct over time. And strength too, especially over time, I would say that it's a little bit more nuanced and difficult over time to build strength versus something that's a little bit more forgiving, which is building muscle. Both are challenging. I'm not going to say it's like easy to build muscle. That's not true, but it is a little bit more forgiving than, say, building strength. So something to consider, even if you're someone that doesn't really care, quote unquote, about strength, but does the weight that you lift, does it feel lighter? Something as simple as that. This is even someone that maybe with your workouts, you just use light dumbbells with whatever it is you're doing. Even if you're doing one of those like pump classes where, it's an hour and it's essentially like cardio with weights, kind of not really HIIT training. I would say more circuit training. Even if you do something like that, does the weight feel a little bit lighter? Or here's another one. Does your body weight does your body weight squat, does it feel easier? And do you feel lighter when you're squatting? Now, these aren't, big crazy things. We're not talking about moving, tons of weight necessarily, but does something as simple as squatting down, standing up, does that feel easier to you? So what do you guys think of this? The strength, like looking or gauging your strength over time as being an indicator? Because to me, that's one of the most important, even if strength isn't what you really care about necessarily.
I mean, I think I'd kind of say, over time, if you're finding that your weights are lighter, obviously that is definitely that's improvement right then and there. But for those people who maybe aren't gaining so much muscle, or their goals aren't to necessarily gain, this mass amount of strength or anything like that, sometimes you can even think back and ask yourself, are your movements a little more comfortable to do than when you first started as well?
I like that.
Me too.
And that's something that I found through personal experience exercising, that like for standing back rows, for example, was always an uncomfortable exercise for me personally. But over time, last 2 or 3 months of working out, I find that my position and everything just is way more comfortable and doable. And then from there, because I would like to build a little bit of muscle, I could start increasing weight that way as well.
Did you say rows? Is that what you said?
Yeah, standing back rows.
Standing back rows. Gotcha. Yeah. Oh, I love the way you put that. Like, it's more comfortable. Mm-hmm. That's an even better way. I said lighter. I think the way you said it, there's more meaning behind that. I really like that. More comfortable. Like how we've talked about on the show before, like owning your range of motion. Mm-hmm. I think that goes hand in hand with that, and you're just confident in that movement, even if you're not necessarily doing way more weight than you were, maybe a couple months ago. But being comfortable in the move, I absolutely love that. And number 4, and as we always say, we said this time and time again, and we could do an entire episode on this again, and that is you're sleeping better at night. I found that if you are training, I don't want to say at the right intensity, like you have to worry about being perfect or anything like that. I want to create a barrier for any of you to exercise if you're not currently doing so. But when you do find that right dose of exercise to where you're being challenged for sure, but we're not overdoing it, we're getting physical stimulation, and there's at least some type of a challenge, man, not only do you get a greater night's sleep or longer or more sleep, the quality of your sleep is so much more. You sleep better, you sleep longer. It's fantastic. And as we know, like, I feel like that's one of those topics over the years I've really started to understand how important it is, which is sad. I should have really believed this like when we were teenagers. You would hear, like, even reading bodybuilding magazines back when we were teenagers, and they would talk about sleep. It's one of those things like, yeah, it doesn't really matter that much. It's like that when people would say that, stupid cliche of I'll sleep when I'm dead or whatever. And I believe that. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, who cares? But now, knowing what we know, your sleep affects everything else, literally everything else. And, especially when we're doing physical activity. So if your routine is, if it's going in the right direction, you're probably sleeping a little bit better at night. So I'm going to leave that there unless you guys have anything else for that. No,
great.
that's it.
Yeah,
Got it.
I'm with
Cool.
you.
Cool. And then number 5 here, somewhat similar to what AJ was saying a little bit ago. In life, from a physical standpoint, just feels a little bit easier. Now, I know that's a pretty general statement, and this list could last for pages and pages, so we're just going to list a few specifics, and that's it. Like, literally, we could talk about this for a whole nother episode also. But for one person, here's an example. This could mean walking around the block is easier for someone. Say, someone is, pretty significantly overweight, and just standing up and walking to their mailbox and back could be fatiguing, okay? Now imagine that same person has been exercising for a while, and they literally stand up one day and they walk to their mailbox that could be down the street and come back, and they don't feel as winded. That is one of the coolest parts of fitness that we don't always talk about. It's very easy to see on Instagram and social media and wherever else, people doing PRs with their clean and jerks or any of that stuff, which I think is awesome. I get hyped up on that stuff too. But man, how cool is that to think that this person was fatigued by standing up and taking a couple steps, maybe walking for a minute or two, now can easily do that. That's a side of fitness that we don't talk about enough, I think. Mm-hmm. And what a cool thing to do. Literally your life is easier, at least from a physical standpoint at that. So yeah. If you could do something such as walking easier, or if we talk about your occupation, depending on what it is, if your job mm-hmm. requires some type of labor. Now, this can be anything. It doesn't just have to talk about the careers that we talk about on a regular basis here, like fire and EMS or anything like that. This is anything where you could be on your feet all day or whatever it is. This could be a police officer or really anything where there's some type of labor involved. When you have a optimal workout routine, an effective workout routine, one of the indications is you're able to perform at a much higher level and much higher capacity at your job. I would even make the argument here, even if you don't have a physically laborious job, you could be sitting at a computer for a lot of the day or doing very, very light tasks around the office all day. If your workout routine is optimal, I think just doing those activities is going to be easier, just from a cognitive standpoint. Definitely. So that's another great indicator. Now, some other things that go hand in hand with this is your energy levels throughout the day feel a lot higher. Clay, we talked about this before, mm-hmm. how you really want to reach gamers, and just telling them exercising can help their gaming capacity, which, I don't know much about that, but it's true. Your cognitive function in general is so much better if you exercise.
Even someone. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Even the physical ability to sit and play a game in a sitting position for longer periods of time, that you're going to get mad benefits from resistance work. You know what I mean? And that's just to play video games longer. Like, imagine applying that to like playing with your kid.
How about like your attention span too? Like I feel like
Yeah.
you're getting good workouts and you're getting good sleep too. You're more likely to stay engaged with
Mm,
whatever it is you might be
Yep.
doing, work wise or video game wise, whatever it may be.
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And the next example we have here, this is, in my opinion, the only gift that I was ever born with in my life that I'm really good about or really good at, and I like to brag about, and this is lifting groceries. That's been my one talent that I was born with. I can carry more groceries than anyone else.
What's your PR?
My PR, I would say, is okay. I don't want to exaggerate, but I want this to be accurate. I'm going to say at least 20, 25 bags.
That's pretty good.
No, dude.
Yep.
Dude,
Yep.
if I didn't know, 20, 25 bags.
Dude, it's my one talent. Come on.
Dude, 20 to 25 bags.
Dude,
I was
I'm
about to
telling
brag
you.
about like 8, dude. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
but the
20
bags
to
can only hold
25?
like 2 apples per bag, Clayton. So it's a
2 apple. Come on.
Cinnamon sticks.
Come on.
I'm just playing.
It's the one thing I'm talented at, is that's carrying groceries. But anyways, even something like that, after you're in the gym for a little while, you're going to notice things like carrying your groceries is going to be a little bit easier. I know Clayton's used that example
Oh, yeah.
on other episodes
It's a farmer's
as well.
walk.
And then, yes, exactly, farmer's walk.
Yeah.
And AJ, you just said this, I think, a second ago, or one of you did. And this is like, if you have kids, just keeping up with your kids. If your workout routine is going in the right direction, something as simple as playing with your kids is going to get a little bit easier. Now, the last point that I have written down for the day, and this might not speak to everyone, this is me personally, and this is, you aren't chronically in pain or chronically sore. So this is, again, going to the side of the spectrum where you're probably doing a little bit too much training, a little bit too much, or at high intensity, a little bit too high, and you do that for too long. And from there, being chronically sore, in pain, all of those things that I've talked about on the show, multiple times. When you find that right dose of fitness or exercise, your body, just generally speaking, feels so much better. And I don't know what you guys think with that, if you've been through periods of overtraining or anything like that, but when you find that right dose, it's really something else.
For me, it wasn't until I made a concerted effort to find my right dose that I hit my stride. Because for years and years and years, I would overtrain or I'd undertrain. In fact, I would overtrain and I'd undertrain, depending on how I felt. Yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought. But the thing I just said, I meant.
Yeah. You're just saying how, like, you've been through both, undertraining
Right.
and overtraining, and when you find that spot in the middle, that it's
Right. Thank
that's
you.
something else.
So to that point, I mean, once I made the effort to work out in my way, all of a sudden it unlocked my ability to meet my potential.
Ooh, I like it.
Nice.
To meet your potential. Yeah. Yeah. And guys too, I do this on accident sometimes, and I can't stand when people do this. I don't ever want to create a barrier for you to exercise. Okay. Meaning, like, sometimes I'll say stuff, find that right dose. And I don't want someone to be like, oh, I don't know what that is. I don't want to go and exercise. That's not the point of today at all. We want you, if you're someone that, isn't fit at the time, or you don't train, or you don't go to the gym, or you're not too active, we want you to get out there and do all these things. And then over time, it's a learning process. So these are more of tips like, okay, I'm sleeping worse, even though I just started exercising, or I'm always tired, I'm always sore, I'm always feeling this way. So these are just, you could even call them guardrails if you want. So if you're experiencing these things, it's just to help gauge, or get you kind of back into that nice middle ground. It's not at all to create a barrier, because that is the last thing that we'd want to do on the show. What else you guys got before we close out today?
Well, I was going to say what you've given people, what we've given people, but what you specifically have given them with all these listed very specific quantifiers or qualifiers, whatever these points of guidance. I would say once you've listened to this podcast, and this is what I would say if I was training somebody, I wouldn't necessarily take this podcast and go and make a checklist out of it. If that's your thing, rock it. Absolutely. But I would say take it, listen to it, enjoy the things we said, and then forget about it all and simply ask yourself, how do you feel about your training? And that's step one, because once you ask that question, how do you feel about your training? Just real broad, just real easy. Then depending on what you feel like your answer to that is, you can get into the specifics of all the things we talked about today and get to the bottom of it. So in some ways, Jake has given us like a diagnosis sheet for successful exercise. So use it as such. Don't, like Jake said, don't let this deter you from doing it in some other way that works for you. In fact, that can kind of, I'm going to tangent a little bit, but it kind of brings me back to point 3, which I did want to make sure I threw in, because point 3 was paying attention to or good exercise. With good exercise, you'll see slow improvement of performance over time. I wanted to throw into that the way that I do it firsthand, and the way that I share with my clients is, if you're lifting, when you're lifting and you're doing your routine and you start to feel that feeling of just like, I'm a little bored. For me, that's the first sign that it's time to consider either raising the weight or at least raising the challenge or intensity in order to meet my perceived level of desired stimulation, right? So it goes back to all the things Jake said, and I do want to end my point just by saying, don't stress too much about all this stuff. Like Jake said, it's just a guidepost. It's the guardrails for you to know that you're that you're being successful.
Yeah. And try new things, exactly like you guys have already touched on a million times. Do what works best for you and what you enjoy doing. And at the end of the day, listen to your body and recognize when you start feeling happy, or if you're getting better sleep, recognize your energy level or attitude the next day, and keep going with it. Feel better.
Yeah, you guys should see AJ when he doesn't work out. Straight monster. This is a day of training, huh?
They have a segment on Animal Planet about me and no sleep.
straight to Alaska for you, away from everyone, huh?
Exactly.
Oh my God. I just saw Andrew in my mind, full Liver King, like running through the Alaskan wilderness with the straps.
Dude, I pictured him as Liver King earlier too.
Did you really?
Yes. Earlier in the episode, Andrew said when we were talking about him living in the middle of nowhere, I thought of Liver King.
That's amazing. All right, Andrew, it's time to start taking steroids.
All right.
Oh, wait.
All right.
So I'll get back to you guys next week on that one, and I'll let you know how it goes.
and apologies, adhering to ancestral tenets. Tenets.
Yeah. There you go.
Anabolic tenets.
Yeah.
Anabolic tenets. Yeah. There you go. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Mission Driven Made podcast. If you did find value in the show today, please go ahead and subscribe, and then leave us a review down there at the bottom of your phone. It's going to help us tremendously. If you'd like to find us on Instagram, we are at Mission Driven Made. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook, we are at The Forum. So if you go to Facebook and you type in Mission Driven Made The Forum, you're going to see a free online fitness community for everyone there. We'd love for you to join. All right, everyone, we hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, stay mission driven.
All right, Twitch viewers, now's your opportunity to get that live Q&A sexy face from Andrew, Jake, myself. You've got questions, we've got answers. So go ahead and throw them on down, and we'll pick them on up, and it's going to be great. It's going to be super great. Okay, good talk, guys.